The reason I'm recording this video is because the clock has struck midnight and it is officially my birthday. Oh yes, birthdays. The day that children can't wait for and the day that adults hope never come. Today I'm turning 23 and I'm officially in the territory where I'm beginning to feel old. I wanted to record a video today, posting it on my channel where I've recorded videos previously and abandoned them rather quickly, but I wanted to get on the camera and record a video today for 3 reasons. My name is Grayson Carruthers. I am 23 years old and I wanted to record this video for one of 3 reasons. Most importantly, I want to have something to look back on as I get older, to reflect on the man that I became. I want to have something to show those who I meet later on in life, to show them who I was, to demonstrate who I became. And I also want to record this video to share my journey with anybody who is in a worse position than me, or feels like they're in a worse position than me, or just needs a sign that things can get bad and they can get better. And so I'm alluding on the 3rd point, but the title of this video is starting over at 23. And now I know what you're thinking, what does that mean? Well, without getting into too much of the specifics, because I do plan on recording individual videos of that, I'm starting my 23rd birthday living at home with my parents. I do have a career. I do have my associate's degree. I just finished that up in this spring. I'm in insurance at the moment, but as I said, I live with my parents. I do not currently have a girlfriend. I do not currently have a vehicle. That's, there's stories for all this stuff. I'm in a tremendous amount of debt at the moment. And one other thing, I'm not quite in the shape that I would like to be in. My relationships are not where I would like them to be in multiple areas of my life, and most importantly, I do not have the relationship with God that I would have liked to have. And so I want to come on here. I'm laying the groundwork. I just laid out all the things that I'm unhappy with through my 22 years and what I am going to begin doing in my life to change those areas. And so this last year, being 22, I've had the same group of friends pretty much my whole life. I've met some people along the way, high school, middle school, my first job, etc. But first 22 years, I'll admit, especially these last 2, really whenever I began to start legally drinking alcohol and going out and having a reason to do those things, a lot of areas in my life suffered because I've been living a hedonistic lifestyle. And what I mean by that is I've not been living with very much intention in my life, almost like Forrest Gump, where the metaphor where the feather flies through the wind. That's essentially what's been happening. And I'm going to try and do all these videos in one take, because as I said, I'm in insurance, I'm in sales. I need to get used to getting things right the first time. I'm not in the ability to pick up the phone and call somebody and, oh, hold on a second, let me restart. I digress. I've been letting life happen to me for too long and living for pleasure in the moment. And it's quite frustrating because I mentioned I'm in debt, and this is not something that I really have told many people inside of my life. You know, the reason why I come on this camera, I know that I've recorded some videos before. I'm not sure if anyone who's watched me before will see this or not, but it's very difficult to tell everybody in your life what you're going through, and that's because, you know, people in your life care about you in a way that maybe sometimes you don't care about yourself, and you don't want to stress people out, you don't want to make people worried, even if they should be. And so why it's frustrating is because about 2022, I was in a completely separate situation. I had just graduated high school. It was about a year after I graduated high school, but I had an Infiniti QX80. No, not QX80. Infiniti Q50. I apologize. I had an Infiniti Q50. I had a girlfriend that I was pretty serious with, and I had roughly $10,000 you know, invested into cryptocurrency. And this was of course during the bear market, so you can only imagine what that is now. And the summer of 2022, and I'm not here to, you know, get too much into this, but 2022, I started following, you know, Andrew Tate and Fresh and Fit and all these guys that came onto the scene. For one reason or another, I was motivated by these people to get into good physical shape, get into good financial shape, and had a good idea of what I needed to do to be successful, right? As time went on, I kind of abandoned a lot of those habits, as you can see. I mean, I'm not in good shape at all. Like I said, I'm in debt now. I'm 23 years old, living here, but you know, over the last year, I have just, being 22 was one of the best years of my life in terms of the experiences that I had. As you can imagine, I mean, if I was living a hedonistic lifestyle, it would be pretty disappointing if I didn't have good experiences, right? But you know, it was also the year where I probably lost the most in my life, and not necessarily in terms of family death or, you know, things like that. And it's not just about like the money, but I mean, I lost a lot of progress. I lost a lot of time. I lost a lot of momentum that I had in my life. I lost a lot of the strength in my relationship in certain areas. But with that being said, I also learned the most whenever I was 22. I learned the most about myself. I learned the most about what I don't want to do going forward, because there's a point in every young man's life, and this could be the same for women. I can't speak on that because I'm not a woman, but there's a point in every young man's life where you have to draw a line in the sand and decide that you're ready to buckle up and get your life together. Because as I said, I've just been goofing off for too long now. I'm 23 years old, and maybe you can make an excuse, oh, you know, when you were your 20s, early 20s, you know, that's when you're supposed to have fun, your college age and stuff, which I agree, but I've had enough fun up until this point. And this last year, I just learned, you know, I learned a lot about myself, a lot about what not to do, a lot about whenever I'm a father, you know, what do I need to do for my son whenever he's in this stage in life. And you know, I need to live with more intentionality. Like I said, am just really recording this video to anybody who ends up watching this, and like I said, hopefully you can take something from this. But you know, I've always been somebody who's had a lot of great ideas. As a kid, I had great imagination, um, great business ideas, content ideas. I've always been a big idea guy, you know, as you can say. I've always been a dreamer, but I've never put those things into action. And from an outside perspective, you might think, oh, you know, well, if you've thought things before and you haven't done them, and now you're in the, you know, you're essentially at rock bottom at 23 years old, why is this next year going to be any different? And I don't have any logical reason I could explain to convince you why it wouldn't be. This is why I'm creating this video, because I am making a promise to myself that I am not going to live another year like this. What I believe turning everything around in my life is, how do I want to put this? This is going to be a long video, and as I said, I apologize, but I'll get into the specifics, like I said, of everything at another time. But this last year has just showed me that I need to live a life of purpose. And whether that purpose is entertaining people, whether that purpose is helping people with something specific, whether that person is being a shoulder for someone to lean on, an ear to listen to somebody who's going through something, I need to be that. I need to start living for something other than myself, is essentially what I'm saying. I've been invested into by family and friends now for the last few years, and it's about time that I start to make good on those investments for the people who care about me in my life. Because when I was 19, 20, you know, I grew up middle class. I was never rich, but you know, I was never hurting for money. And I was always thinking, oh, you know, well, if I ever get rich, it's not going to be as cool, or people are going to try and discredit me because, you know, oh, well, you didn't have to struggle, you didn't have to start by yourself and all this stuff. I will tell you now, for better or for worse, I have put myself in a position now where it's going to have to be a pretty epic comeback story, if I pull this off and become the person that I want to be, both financially, both physically, both spiritually, and both relationally with everyone. My grandpa turns 80 this next year. My other grandparents are still alive, thank goodness. And you know, I need to spend more time being intentional, as I said, living with purpose, making sure I call my grandparents once a week and talk to them, because there can be weeks at a time where I don't think about it because I'm so distracted getting caught up doing stupid stuff and having fun, and that's not the way that I meant to live. So I wanted to record this video. As I said, I will get into the specifics of everything in separate videos this weekend. Of course, I'll have it's Friday morning. I have to go celebrate my birthday with my family tomorrow. Thank God I'm going to have breakfast with my mom, and then my dad comes in from out of town, and I'll have dinner with my dad and my stepmom and my brother and my other brother and my sister. We'll go out for a nice dinner. After that, I'll go get together with all of my friends. Bane, Cameron, Peyton, DJ, Chase, Austin, and Dan. And then Saturday, UFC 321, Tom Aspinall, Cyril Gane's gonna start in the morning. So we'll wake up and all my buddies asked off for this weekend. And so I'm gonna watch the UFC with them. And then, you know, when Sunday starts and Monday rolls around, you know, it's gonna be time. It's gonna be time for me. some people might not see how this is any different from a New Year's resolution. And as I said, I can talk as much as I want, but at the end of the day, I have to prove over this next year through these videos, through my character as a man, and through who I become, that I was being serious. And as I said, being an inspiration to somebody who's in a similar position to me. You know, you're never too far gone. I'm someone who's done New Year's resolutions. I've done fitness and then stopped, and then I've tried saving money and then stopped, and all these things, and I've started and stopped and started and stopped and started and stopped. And some people's personality is just that way. But I mean, what am I going to be, the person who starts and stops and starts and stops and starts and stops and then just stops? Or am I going to start again and try again? Because the only way to guarantee that I'm not ever going to change the things I want to change in my life is to not try at all. And so I want to be there for somebody like myself who maybe has spent these last couple of years in limbo and understands that they're meant for more, has had fun, has had plenty of fun, has made great memories. And I'm not saying, you know, look, oh, I'm gonna become a hard ass and I'm not ever gonna have fun again. But no, I need to set goals for myself, and I need to incrementally achieve them and reward myself for progress instead of just living my life every single day the way that I have. So I appreciate it. If you have watched this video this far, I would absolutely love to start conversations with anybody in any of these videos inside of the comments. You know, if you are older than me and have any advice about starting over at this age, or you started over at a certain time, just anything at all. I understand there's plenty of feedback on how the videos can get better, and I promise those will be worked on as time goes on. But I'm also just very focused right now on getting my message out and less about the quality of the content itself, because I'm not trying to lure people in with cool thumbnails or good editing or anything like that. I'm more interested in talking to somebody who wants to listen and trying to change my life for the better. So once again, this is Grayson. I am going to make my 23rd year of my life. I'm doing a full 180. It's going to be entirely different than the years before, and only through God can I make that happen. So I appreciate you for listening to this. I hope to talk to you soon, and stay tuned for updates and more explanations.